Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today's going to be a bit of an update to a situation we've covered multiple times over the past week or so. We're going to get some news regarding Emiru and the TwitchCon situation where she was assaulted live on stage during a meet and greet. We're going to hear her perspective on everything and also get some insider info about the response or lack thereof from Twitch, but also we're going to be going over something else she talked about live on stream yesterday and was also uploaded onto YouTube, where she made some very serious allegations against another large streamer in the name of Mizkif. She accused him of very serious things, including assault, abuse, stalking, harassment, and threats of blackmail. There is a lot to go through, but let's begin with the updates regarding TwitchCon. So, multiple videos I've made over the past week talked about a situation where Emiru, a very large streamer on Twitch, someone who's made the platform millions and millions of dollars, she was contractually obligated to go and do a meet and greet live on stage, and during it she was assaulted. And the only person who stepped in was one of her own personal security members, and well, other than that, Twitch did nothing. In fact, the perpetrator just walked out the front door. And this became a very big controversy, but there's more to it. Twitch came out and said that they're doing their best. They're cooperating with law enforcement, which we already had a very good sense that they were lying or at least embellishing their role in all of this. And Emiru has come out and made it very clear that Twitch is completely and utterly lying. They are not cooperating with law enforcement whatsoever.
That last week, everything I said on my stream was accurate, obviously, except for one thing. I was wrong about one thing. I was going over the tweet that Twitch initially put out, where they're like, oh yeah, this thing happened to a high-profile creator, police were on site, we're cooperating with law enforcement investigations. What I was wrong about was, they were not cooperating with law enforcement investigations. I found that out on Monday when I got a phone call from the San Diego police, and they were talking to me, and they basically said, hey, we can't really do anything right now because they apparently know the name of the guy, but they're not giving it to us until a warrant goes through, which, if you know anything about that stuff, it usually takes a while. Even, if it's expedited, which it was being expedited for me, but it still takes a lot of time. And they're like, yeah, they're refusing to give us the name.
Okay, so if it wasn't clear already, Twitch is not working with the San Diego law enforcement. They said in their official post back when it happened about a week ago, they said they are working with local law enforcement. They are not. According to Emiru, they are not doing anything to cooperate with law enforcement, and that kind of makes sense in a twisted way, right? They're trying to protect themselves. They're trying to avoid liability. They don't want law enforcement getting into their business. They're trying to protect themselves. And at the cost of that is, of course, people like Emiru. They are not cooperating. They know who this person is, but they will not share that information. Like I said in my previous coverage of the situation, they knew enough about this guy to get his identity to the point where they banned his Twitch account initially for 30 days, by the way, and then eventually perma because of outrage. But they know who this guy is, but they are not sharing his name with law enforcement. And of course, this all goes back to Dan Clancy and his incompetence. He was someone who is facing this massive controversy at his convention, and he spent the night where Emiru was assaulted not handling what happened to her, but instead partying with women a third of his age. And again, I am not accusing this guy of anything criminal. I just think it's a bit odd, and his priorities are a bit out of whack when this 60-something-year-old man, married man, is spending his nights partying with 20-year-old women instead of dealing with a very serious situation at his event, TwitchCon 2025. But of course, there's one person who is just thrilled with Dan Clancy, and that is Mizkif, the subject of this video. And he's also someone who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk and was banned for a week, and then he whined about it, and that got reduced to just 24 hours. But that's just, something for you guys to know. But in her recent stream, Emiru launched a series of allegations against Mizkif, and they're very serious. Here's kind of the intro of her discussion about these related allegations.
I'm finally going to be opening up about the psychological and domestic abuse, stalking and harassment, sexual assault, and threats of blackmail that Mizkif has done towards me, and some of these issues which are still ongoing. For the entirety of this year, I have attempted to separate myself from him and not talk about him at all, and not talk about this issue and just not make it a public thing. I always tried my best to keep this to myself, but like I said, I feel like it's gone to the point, which I'll explain later, that I feel like it just has to be done.
So as a part of that long list of allegations she made, included is accusations of sexual assault. Now, when she made her previous statement about a week ago, which referred to TwitchCon, she made a somewhat vague reference to the fact that she's kind of done with mistreatment, and she's going to call out someone who is close to her and someone that a lot of people know. And myself, as someone who's not on the in, like I'm not on the in crowd here, but seeing cues and hints from other content creators, I had a very strong suspicion she was talking about Mizkif. And a lot of people have been raising some concerns about the dude for years and years and years. And right here, she discusses what she believes was an act of sexual assault against her by Mizkif.
So yeah, we were just talking and I was crying a lot. He started to try to comfort me by hugging me while I was sitting on the couch and holding me really close to him. And when this was happening, we hadn't talked in quite a while, and I'm usually very uncomfortable with being touched a lot by people that I'm not in a relationship with. But I let him hold me while I was crying. And he started kissing me in my face, and I let him do it. I was still sobbing a lot. And then, suddenly, he tried to climb on top of me and aggressively shoved his hand down my pants. And, I screamed. Yeah. And when I screamed, he jumped off me like a cat, And, instead of apologizing or checking if I was okay, he said, "I feel weird now. I feel like I did something wrong. I have to go." And he immediately left my house while I was still crying, without, checking if I was okay or anything. And at the time, I was still making excuses for him, and I was still afraid of causing trouble for other streamers around us, or making things weird for viewers. I know that probably sounds crazy, but I just felt this pressure, I had to try to keep things together, if that makes sense.
Now, of course, with these situations, it's always important to remember that people are innocent until proven guilty. But the point of my video today is to show both sides in this stage of allegations. And I'm just going to say, his responses to everything has not been great. It's not helping his case whatsoever. So in regards to basically everything that we're talking about, but in specific, the sexual assault allegations, he had a very calculated response, something that many people thought was pre-planned. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, but he did respond in a live stream not long after she made her statements. Mizkif went live on Twitch to talk about things. And I think it's important to note that he was in subscribers only chat. So he was limiting who could actually respond and comment during his stream. Also, people noted that he waited for Asmongold to go offline. I do not think that's a coincidence, and honestly, it's kind of a smart move because he didn't want some back and forth with someone that I think would challenge him on whatever he's saying. But Mizkif came out and basically said, "I hear all of your complaints, Emiru. but you mistreated your rabbits.
Emiru has a lot of rabbits. It was her calling when she first moved in. These were a big part of her life. But as those rabbits moved out of her room and into the living room, they started to see disgusting neglect. No food, no water, sometimes not having clean bedding for weeks. I, along with many others who would come over, would give them what they needed, and I would tell her all the time to take care of them, but to no avail. She completely neglected those rabbits, so much that many of them just died over 1 year of being around in my house. My cleaning ladies would clean them just because they felt terrible, and my brother once came over and said, and I quote, "If you ever marry this woman, I'll never forgive you."
Yeah, I just think that's a really weird response. That is like his home run, his sort of Hail Mary attempts at defending himself. The only thing he's got mainly was countering by saying, you mistreated your bunnies. I might have called them rabbits before, but they're bunnies, okay? And that's a very weird thing to say because, first of all, that's not really a defense. And second of all, he lived with her. So if you saw an animal being abused in the home you were sharing with your partner, why wouldn't you stop it? You could have done something. So you let animals, according to him, continue to suffer to eventually have this sort of back pocket defense in case she ever tried to cancel you? That seems really, really odd. And another defense of the sexual assault allegations that Mizkif made kind of raises some eyebrows. So he basically says that she was, or he implies that she was dating someone who was underage back in 2021, referring to this Bonnie individual. Now, this is something I actually talked about back in April. This claim that Emiru was dating a minor was debunked. Not just debunked by the timeline of events, it made no sense, but the person who was the subject, the supposed minor in the situation, came out and said, whoa, I made a vague post about someone mistreating me, and people interpreted that as Emiru. That was not my intention. She is not guilty of anything. She was not the one I was referring to. And Mizkif is going around in his defense of what he's facing now and trying to stir back up a debunked claim against Emiru. I find things like that to be a bit alarming. When you're facing serious allegations, and this is someone who obviously knew her in real life, knows the real circumstances, and is pushing a debunked lie to try to slander her and make her look bad, instead of actually defending himself. Like, the only reason he's saying this is to give this impression to unknowing people that she's some predator, or he's trying to appeal to his sycophants who don't care about the reality. Either way, right? So I just find that to be a bit gross, personally. I think it's obvious what he's doing. He's trying to drag her name in the mud to defend himself, but it gets even worse. Because there is another clip where Emiru talks about some abuse and controlling behavior where apparently after failing to get a Mr. Beast collab, he wanted to end it all. Not just for him, but for Emiru, who was in the car with him as he drove over 150 miles an hour.
And at the time, he also would more often do things like going, like if we were driving in the car together, he would be going like 150 miles an hour. And like one time he even said like, well, now we're both gonna die. Like threatening to kill both of us. And this wasn't like even necessarily because of me or like because of something I did a lot of the time. Like one of the times that it happened, it was because we were just getting food and he was on his phone and he saw that Mr. Beast had put out a video and Mr. Beast had invited another streamer and he was like, oh, Mr. Beast invited this guy to his video, not me. And I was like, oh, well, you know, like, huh, yeah, I guess so. Which led to him going 150 miles per hour in the car and talking about killing himself while doing it. Then at home, other things would happen. Like, I'd be trying to sleep and he would scream at me and say that it was all my fault that he felt insecure. There was a time that I walked into a room that he was in, and as soon as he saw me there, he threw his phone at the dresser and started yelling because I had posted a YouTube video within the same couple of days as him.
In his stream, he really didn't seem to have any real defense to what she said. And if what she said is true, not only is it the most pathetic thing I've ever heard in my life, like literally preparing to off yourself in another person because you didn't get a Mr. Beast collab, that is, the CIA couldn't torture that sort of response out of me, okay? But he put, potentially, according to Emiru, another person's life, and also other people on the road's lives, in danger because he was that upset about losing out on a collab. And this sort of goes with a claim of narcissism. I've heard this about Mizkif for many, many years. I've heard he is a very narcissistic person, and that's not a crime, but what's being described here is psychopathic. Again, if it's true, this is what she's alleging, but he doesn't really have much of a defense. And he tried to turn around and show proof that, no, I'm not the one who has these unhinged thoughts. It's actually Emiru. And as pointed out here by Rima, the message he showed on stream that's supposed to show that Emiru was threatening to off herself, he showed a message where it was to Emiru. It wasn't from Emiru, it was to her. He sent this saying that he wanted to off himself and clearly was not well, misspelling things and seeming very frantic. So it's just really weird. Like, this is supposed to be the grand proof. It's his own messages. Doesn't that seem really odd to you? But of course, there's some more behavior that people are labeling as signs that he is a controlling person. This one is very odd. It shows jealousy over her numbers on Twitch, that he was getting jealous that she was outperforming him, and also jealousy over a Shadow Fang keep run in World of Warcraft.
Tank Emmy, do it. Let me handle all the hate, the criticism, the you're worse than Emmys, the Emmy is so much better, the people saying you're better in every chat, the comparisons says nobody will ever be on my side. Let me deal with it, you have fun. I asked you not to become a tank, you didn't listen. And now it's the classic, what was I supposed to do? I'm not dealing with this. And like I said, you can go find the stream. But for context, I was playing Warrior in World of Warcraft in like a level 24 dungeon. It was like Silverpine. Like, it was just like, it wasn't even like, it was like dog shit gameplay, I'm gonna be honest. Like, so, yeah.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is crashing out over the fact that not only is she polling good numbers on Twitch and I guess was making him look bad by his own admission, but he was upset, sending dozens of angry messages to her because she decided to tank Shadow Fang Keep in World of Warcraft. Now, I don't know if this was just regular classic WoW or hardcore WoW, where if you die, you have to delete your character, but either way, let me make this clear. This is a low-level dungeon. This is for like early level 20s. Who is getting mad about this stuff to the point of sending any messages, let alone like abusive, angry messages? If the guy's trying to combat the idea that he is a controlling dude, crashing out over the fact that she decided to tank a dungeon against your wishes is not a very good sign of that. But there's many clips showing this guy just crashing out over the fact that she's either pulling better numbers or people are criticizing his treatment of Emiru in this clip, basically saying, hey, Twitch mods, ban anyone who's questioning the way I treat my girlfriend. You see him like pretending to smash her with a chair. Like, I don't know, man, these things are not aging well. And also, if you're confused, there's endless screenshots and proof of what she's saying. There's so many, it's actually kind of hard to keep track of everything. She's not just pulling this out of thin air. She has receipts to back up everything. But there's another claim in this next clip where there was a situation where she alleged that he gave her a black eye.
He would throw bottles, like plastic bottles with liquid in it, not like glass bottles, at me, despite me telling him like I didn't like it and it scared me and I bruise very easily. He would throw his phone at me. I would tell him, you know, it scared me, I don't like it. And one time it even hit me in the eye, which caused me to get a black eye, but he always, you know, was like, oh, it's an accident. And I was like, oh yeah.
Now this whole thing and his explanation doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but there were people back, I believe a year ago when this allegedly happened, where they were trying to say like, dude, this doesn't really add up. Are you like hurting her? What's going on? There were people who were getting banned on social media for trying to push the narrative that this black eye was caused by him in a malicious manner. And his explanation, this genius over here, he has an explanation for all this. And of course, it makes literally no sense whatsoever.
First time I felt love for a girl, and I thought I'd want it to never let it go. The first year of our relationship, we almost had no fights. We started to date officially in January of 2022, and up until my cancellation, everything was perfect. She brushed over that I threw water bottles or my phone near her, but that wasn't during fights. I want to make that very clear. It would be me throwing my phone on my bed when I brushed my teeth. She did tell me she got a bruise from it, and I stopped. That's all that happened. I will throw you and show you an example, chat. I'm brushing my teeth. Right here. Look at me. I would throw my phone on the bed. I would just lob it over because I was going to bed. So I would just throw the phone. That's it. And when that's the whole thing. I didn't throw it at her. I want to make that very clear. I never threw it at her. I never hit her. And she even said in her situation that she bruises easily. She brushed over that I threw water bottles with her on my phone near her, but that wasn't during our fights. It would be throwing my phone on my bed when I brushed my teeth. She did tell me she got bruises from it, and I stopped.
So at this point, that's basically the main crux of what's being brought forward. Again, these are allegations, and innocent until proven guilty. I'm just saying at this point, it doesn't really look good for him. Okay, she's making some weighty allegations, and she has receipts for a lot of this stuff. And on his side, he's extremely defensive. He is deflecting. He is creating diversions. He's talking about bunnies. And, you know, he's not doing himself any favors. And Emiru says she won't be surprised if Mizkif wants to sue her. And I almost guarantee he is going to. My recommendation to Emiru, who's never going to watch this video, unfortunately, you need to do everything in your power legally against this guy. Like, get a protection order against this guy if you believe in what you're saying. If these are allegations you stand behind, go get restraining orders against this guy. Keep this guy away from you. On top of that, use all legal venues possible. Go to the stations. If people aren't listening, keep trying. That's like the best you can do. And I do believe he's going to push this in court. I won't be surprised whatsoever. And he also made a very bizarre set of statements at TwitchCon where he basically said he's going to go nuclear if Emiru ever goes after him. So this seems to have been a brewing situation where he knew something was coming. And also, like, don't discredit the fact that he clearly was reading off of a script. The guy couldn't keep his eyes on the audience for more than 2 seconds. He's constantly shifting over, looking at notes, and it's not helping his case again. But there's also someone I think is an interesting character in all this because he knows all these people, and that is Asmongold. And he talked about how he has known some information about this but did not want to come out because it wasn't his story to tell. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He wanted to respect the wishes of people like Emiru, who are involved in the situation.
You know, like, I don't want to elaborate on any other further things about this. I can kind of talk to the extent that I knew about it a little bit, but I don't want to kind of go and, you know, turn this into like a, you know, continuation. But I can talk about kind of what happened. I guess the first thing I can talk about is the pier, which is the thing that I got mentioned with, which is I was starting my stream. It was the beginning of my stream. I remember I was like, I don't know, like maybe an hour into my stream or something like that. I got a call from Emiru and I was like, what the fuck? And this was like the day after the pier thing had happened. And I saw that Mizkif had gone live earlier in the day. He almost never does that. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, maybe he went live to farm viewers and talk about this, right? But then she calls me and she's crying, and Ray and Cinna and one of their managers is there too. And I'm talking to all four of them. And this is, I muted the stream. And this is why, by the way, I haven't reacted to any Miz clips in the last like 6 months. I haven't talked about Miz in the last 6 months. I haven't had anything to do with him like a year. This is the reason. And so I scroll past every clip. I haven't talked about anything. And so I call him the first time, and it rings like 2 or 3 times. Nothing happens. Immediately, sorry, it hangs up, and I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I call again. Because, like, you know, sometimes, like, oh, it's just a random call. But, like, usually if somebody calls you 2 times in a row, it's like, okay, this is serious, right? And so then I call him again, and the rings were, like, you know, it was, like, 3, and then the other one was, like, 7 or 8. So, like, I don't know this happened, right? Obviously, I don't know this happened. But, I think he either, like, I don't even know if he had the phone, right? But I think that whoever had the phone saw the call and chose to decline it. I think that's what happened. I don't know if that's what happened. So yeah, that's what I think. And so, but then I called him later on, and he said he's freaking out, and I explained, I was like, okay, well, this is why, and this is what happened, and this is the reason, and, you know, he's, fucking, you know, obviously I knew more about this than he thought that I knew with this situation, because Amy had called me, and I had to explain it to him, but, like, I didn't want to involve myself in this either, because, like, this is, like, I knew she was, like, no contact with him, and at this point, pretty much everybody in the org, at least not everybody, but a lot of people were starting to, like, get this vibe with him. But, and this is also another thing, is that a lot of the people that have collaborated with Miz don't know anything about this. They didn't know anything about this, and it was explicitly hidden as much as possible in order to make sure that nobody knew about it in any capacity by them, because they didn't want any of this to get out at all. And so, does, like, I don't know. I'm not gonna get into the specifics, right? Hidden by who? Well, Miz and Emmy. I mean, Emmy was afraid that if the information got out, and Miz made her afraid, if the information got out, that it would negatively affect Miz in multiple ways, and so he didn't want that to happen.
Now, a lot of people will look at this and they'll think that Asmongold is doing something wrong. But again, it's not really his story to tell. He's not the one who needs to come forward with this. It was someone like Emiru. It's her story. She's the one who needs to come forward, and she finally did. And you can see some guilt in his voice, and that's really a shame. It's a very tough position to be in, where, you know, do you betray the wishes of someone and go forward and basically reveal something publicly that happened privately? It's a very tough position to be in, and that is for sure, okay? But he also gave some advice to Mizkif. This is someone who he knows, and he made it very blunt. What he thinks Mizkif should do next.
Any open message to Miz? Fuck off. Have some dignity and retire. Like, I really, I mean, that's my honest, like, you know, what advice do you have? There it is.
Asmongold also is reaching out in a very public and open way, basically saying if there's anyone out there who wants to share more information about this situation involving Mizkif, if they have a story or an accusation to make, to go through him and he will help them out. And that's not too surprising. That's the sort of thing he's done. And if you look at the most recent post by Mizkif, he's losing the court of public opinion. That is for sure. His most recent tweet is just getting absolutely bombarded. Again, I say this for now the 3rd or 4th time. innocent until proven guilty. But it's not looking good. It's not looking good. His response to this is not advisable. In fact, I think the first thing he should have done when she came out with this statement is lawyer up. If these things are serious to him, you don't open up Twitch and start monetizing yourself. Dude, if you're facing like not just career ending, but like life ruining allegations, you go lawyer up. You don't fire up the Twitch stream. It didn't help him. And it's just not a good look. You're allowed to defend yourself, but you got to do it in a way that's going to serve your best interests. You know, you're allowed to go up and represent yourself in court and defend yourself that way, but is that the smartest thing to do? No, people get lawyers. They take legal advice. And him firing up Twitch to make a quick, what I believe is a quickly drafted response to what's happening was not in his best interest. But that is the situation for now. It's a giant mess. There's no other way to say it. We're going to have to see where this goes. I'm sure this is going to be a very long and ongoing event for the months, possibly years into the future. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.